What is going on, friends? Welcome in to the Good Brothers. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Thank you so much for joining us today. Yes, it is only me, the good brother himself. Alex Mercado had to deal with a last-minute emergency, so he'll be here next week on the Good Brothers. But you have me here today, and we have a lot of stuff we have to get into. And if you're joining us on Facebook or on YouTube, you have a treat because you're watching us live and all the cool graphics that we do on Sports from the Couch. Since it's just myself, I figured it'd be kind of a nice little treat for each and every one of you to join us one-on-one with your boy, Uncle Mike. And of course, thank you for joining us wherever you get your favorite podcast. This is where you guys can follow us all over the universe. We have this nifty little graphic right here. If you're watching us all over the special Facebook and YouTube video, you can follow us all over the network. We're on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/Mike Mercado 2333. Follow us all on Twitter. I'm at Mercado2333. The good brother himself is at Mercado21 Alex. The lovely Nicole Mancha is at Typing When Tipsy. You can follow the podcast itself on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod and the network at Mercado Airwaves. We're all on Instagram. The lovely Nicole Manchas at Typing When Tipsy. The good brother himself is at Mercado2121. I'm at Mike Mercado2333. And you can see our true crime show at Murder, Mysteries, and More. We're on patreon.com. If you want to get our interviews ad-free before anybody else with athletes and celebrities, just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. And of course, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you get your favorite podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever they may be. But we are here to finally talk about a movie that, well, not just a movie, but movie news and everything. But we're going to start off with the big one, Toy Story 4. Yes, I got a chance to see it. So did the good brother himself. And we have the reviews right here. We have the Rotten Tomato scores right there. And guys, I absolutely adored this movie. It was phenomenal. I mean, I guess the first thing you want to say is, how did they land it? Because obviously, if you watch Toy Story 1, 2, and 3, especially if you're in anywhere in your late 20s to your mid-20s, this has definitely been a series that's grown up with you. And everybody's big question is like, well, 3 ended so well. How can you do another one? And that was my skepticism going into it just a few days ago, and they knocked it out of the park. They really did. There was so much emotion in this movie. It was very heavy at points. You could see the message that they were trying to come across of growth, of change. And I guess that's always been kind of the theme of the entire series, right? And it makes sense because it was targeted towards that generation of its time. And here we are, and it's really just, it's great to see that the voice acting was still top performance. I mean, Tom Hanks was amazing in there. And you know what's interesting about Tom Hanks in this movie is he does sound kind of aged, you know, and I mean that in the best way possible. Sometimes when you hear somebody is aged in voiceover and or just in general when they do a type of voiceover role, it usually means that they kind of phoned it in. This one just seems like, you know, Tom Hanks is an older dude now, and Tim Allen was still fun as Buzz Lightyear. Joan Cusack was amazing. The whole cast was just, you know, A1, just top tier. So let's get into some of the reviews. This is from the good brother himself. Toy Story 4 is a magnificent movie, hilarious, heartfelt, with a great message. You grow up with these movies like I have. You won't want to miss this. 5 out of 5. And then this is from myself. Toy Story 4, a wonderful addition to one of the best film franchises ever. It feels like the creators are following my life with the lessons being told in each film. 5 out of 5. And on Rotten Tomatoes right now, it has a 98% from the critics and 95% from the audience score. So I guess my big takeaway from Toy Story 4 is, one, never judge creators if they have a good idea. I know it's really easy in today's day and age where we always just assume that it's a money grab, and all film is a money grab. Most entertainment's a money grab, so let's be fair about that. But we're always we're jaded now in today's day and age, and that's fine. That's where the world has kind of led itself into. But they had a story they wanted to tell. They wanted to tell this story. So I think, okay, well, we could go a little bit into spoilers right now. I don't know how spoilery I'm going to get, but just a little bit. I think this is definitely a Woody movie. And I was trying to think of it as I was getting my thoughts together and I was driving home from the movie, were the other 3 Toy Stories Woody movies? Now, they were always about the gang. Part 1 and Part 2 Part 1 was definitely a Buzz and Woody movie, right? And that conflict. Part 2 was, I guess, part 2 was definitely a Woody movie trying to find himself, right? So I guess in that sense, part 2 was definitely a heavy one. Part 3 seemed like an entire group. While Woody was the leader, it felt like it was about the cast, the ensemble, the years passing by and what it kind of meant. And then this one really, once again, just leaned heavy on the Tom Hanks Woody character. And I'll be honest with you, you get a lot of the new character with Forky. You get a Gabby, who's kind of like a Chatty Cathy, impersonation, and wonderful character in this movie. Kind of takes an interesting turn on the bad guy in this film, which is really interesting. That leave it to Pixar, leave it to Disney, leave it for this franchise to really take that the main protagonist into an interesting direction. Keanu Reeves was awesome in his character. So I really loved it. Bo Peep, all the feels with Bo Peep and Woody throughout this whole movie. And that's kind of the ensemble cast. And then you obviously get like the Bunny and the Duck, which is Key and Michael Peel and all them, and they're amazing in the movie. But it's interesting because it's not what you think it's gonna be. I'm not gonna get too spoilery, and it made a bunch of money, and we'll get into all that news and notes about the pop culture world in just a second. But this is gonna be a movie when everybody has seen, and it's made its rounds on streaming and on Blu-ray, that people are going to fall in love with. This might be their favorite. And I still haven't made my official last list. This one is definitely in contention for my favorite. This one hit a different emotion. I think Toy Story 3 just has so much nostalgia to it for me when it comes to being able to really appreciate that film comparative to 1 and 2. So I really enjoyed this movie, though. Maybe my favorite movie this year. And there's been a couple. I mean, I've loved Endgame. I'm trying to think back if John Wick 3 was really good. But Toy Story 4 might be my favorite book. My favorite movie. I still want to go see Booksmart. So that's why I had Book in the mind. And it definitely it's definitely a must watch. And it's a great addition to this legacy in Pixar and the Toy Story franchise. And think about this. I mean, it's 2 movies with 98% on Rotten Tomatoes and 2 100s. And it's crazy. Like, this franchise just knocked that out of the park every single time. And they do it in this one as well. Now, the real question for a lot of people in this post-MCU world we're living in, is there a post-credit? And does it lead into the future? And are there going to be more sequels? I don't know if we'll ever see Toy Story in the big screen again. But will we see them on Disney Plus? I think that's a foregone conclusion, especially after watching Toy Story 4. We are not done with these characters. Not one bit whatsoever. There is still stories to be told with a lot of these individuals. Some more than others. And that's what you got to find out when you go see Toy Story 4 in the movie theaters. But it's a perfect movie when it comes to the scoring system for us here on the Good Brothers. On Mercado Airwaves, we go into these movies. We obviously want to be objective, and I think it definitely... The one criticism I do have about this movie is it didn't need to take this long to come out. I think this story should have been told a couple of the years earlier. But I guess when you think about it, it's not going to go against them because it does work for the movie as well. So, I mean, that's my only criticism. I love the movie. I think my main criticisms for most things when it comes to film is it may be a little too long. But that's just kind of the standard that most things are just 2 hours, over 2 hours long. So I loved it, though. And I think it's a movie that you all are going to enjoy. And it's a bona fide hit and a bona fide summer starter. And it's super exciting that they did it. They took care of it. And they just gave us another great movie. So Toy Story 4, go check it out. We'll get the Good Brothers' full thoughts on it next week. But there you go. There you have it. There are my thoughts on Toy Story 4. Now, moving on, before we get out of here, let's get some news and notes. Why don't we go into the box office this weekend? Like we mentioned, Toy Story 4 coming out, making $120 million in first place. Then you had Child's Play, the remake, coming out, making $14 million on a budget of about $10 million, so probably about $20 million. So it's going to make all its money back over time. Aladdin makes another $13 million. Men in Black International at $10 million in fourth place. And in fifth is The Secret Life of Pets 2 at $10 million. And then you can see the rest of the scores down there. You have Rocket Man making another $5 million. John Wick making another $4 million. Godzilla making $3 million. And just a big flop for Legendary and Warner Brothers there. And open up this weekend. The Good Brother and I mentioned it on last week's episode of The Good Brothers that this was not going to make any money, and it didn't, making $3 million. And it kind of sucks. She looked like a badass, but, nothing there. And then you can see the rest of it rounding out. Now, there is something else I wanted to mention as well when it comes to the box office is what we have coming out this weekend. And you could see it right here. We have Yesterday that's going to be coming out at 2,600 theaters. And Yesterday seems pretty interesting. It's everybody forgets that the Beatles ever existed. And this guy now uses their discography to become famous and seems really interesting. Only got about a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, which again is passable. In Rotten Tomatoes, that means more than not when it comes to critics enjoying the movie. But I was expecting more. I was hoping for more. But Annabelle Comes Home coming out Wednesday, June 26th. And this, who knows? I mean, this franchise just doesn't want to stop. I haven't heard great things about it. But again, it's not going to take much for this movie to make a lot of money. And I think it's going to be interesting where you see Child's Play, where you see Toy Story, and where you see Annabelle Comes Home. And all this leading into Spider-Man. And then in a few weeks after that is The Lion King. So we're really gearing up. And by the time you know, it'll be Oscar season. God, I can't wait for the Joker. That's going to be really cool. I mean, it's going to be really fun. But also speaking about blockbusters, before we get out of here, there's one more thing of notes that we want to get into. So we all know that there's this new Ghostbusters movie coming out. And this is coming off of what happened in the one that came out a few years ago with Christina Wiig. And even though I really like that, with Kristen Wiig, excuse me, and I really like that movie. I actually enjoyed that movie. I shouldn't say I really like it, but I think it gets a lot of crap for a lot of different reasons. But we have a casting announcement for you all. Some breaking news that happened just 15 minutes before we started recording. Ladies and gentlemen, who are you going to call when you need a new Ghostbusters in 2019, 2020? That's right, Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd himself, Ant-Man, is going to be in the new Ghostbusters movie. He had a very funny little video that he posted all over social media. I think this is great casting. You never go wrong with Paul Rudd. He's the definition of countable, bankable, in the sense of you know what you're going to get from him. You know what you're going to get from a Paul Rudd. Does that mean box office success? I don't know. The IP of Ghostbusters is still very strong in people's mind. Paul Rudd is in the middle of a huge franchise run. He is very likable in the zeitgeist of pop culture. This is a no-brainer, but it doesn't guarantee anything for the quality of film. Great talent. And it's always good to have great talent on your projects. But until we see something from this movie, you still got to call it what it is. Let's see how they deliver it. Because all honesty, the Good Brother mentions it all the time. How many great Ghostbusters movies are there? One. There's one great Ghostbusters movie. Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters 2. I love Ghostbusters 2, but I grew up watching that one more than Ghostbusters 1. So I have my bias towards it, but it's not better than Ghostbusters 1. It's not even a great movie. It's a fun movie. It's a good movie. It's an okay movie, if you want to argue that. And then this new one, it was fun. It was all right. It was CGI heavy summer blockbuster. They got a lot of crap for it for a lot of different reasons. Because it tried being too different. My theory's always been, I think it should have still been an all-woman cast, but then you should have just called it Ghostbusters 3. And then if it even then if it didn't succeed, then you do the Paul Rudd news. And then you make Ghostbusters 4 and you just continue on and you keep making this money and eventually you'll make the people love it. This is a franchise people will always kind of go back to because it's so beloved. But will really hurt this franchise more than anything, more than on top of the fact of the trolls of the internet. They waited too long. They waited so long to come out with part 3 or the remake or the reboot, whatever they call this, the one that just came out a few years ago. That's the big problem. So they waited way too long, and then they tried to distance themselves way too much. Then that happened. Now this new movie that's going to come out kind of has that, kind of is getting that pass because we're like, well, hopefully they just give us another good Ghostbusters movie. And the way you get a lot of the community's joy and goodwill is by bringing in this guy right here. You bring in Mr. Ant-Man, Scott Lang, Paul Rudd. But guys, that'll do it for us on this episode of The Good Brothers. Let us know, what did you think about Toy Story 4? What do you think is going to be the number 1 movie in the box office before Spider-Man Far From Home comes out? Which, by the way, it's getting some pretty good reviews, guys. And people are saying there's some crazy stuff in Spider-Man Far From Home. So the Good Brother and I will definitely be making our predictions on what we might see in MCU's next film. Let us know, what do you think about Paul Rudd, speaking of the MCU, joining the Ghostbusters cast? Does that give you more hope for the movie moving forward? What does that tell you about maybe the script that they have in mind for the next Ghostbusters? And, of course, your thoughts on Toy Story 4 and everything else in the pop culture world. That'll do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on The Good Brothers. Make sure you're following us all over the socials right here. We really appreciate you guys always supporting us. It means the world to us. Stay with us all over the socials to see what we have coming up on the network. For The Good Brothers himself, Alex Mercado, I'm Mike Mercado. We'll see you in the next episode of The Good Brothers here on the Mercado Airwaves Network.